In order to have a free marketplace of ideas, there need to be basic ground rules. And the people engaging in dialogue with each other at least have to have certain basic foundations in common. And one of them is being on the same page about the morality of an action like senseless, cold-blooded murder. If we don't have that, then we need to set about creating an environment of order rather than of freedom.
I agree, not entirely, but enough. And what I would say to this is the reason why I don't care about Jimmy Kimmel getting fired is largely for what you were describing, in that we do not have a shared moral worldview. Jimmy Kimmel is a willful liar for the purpose of creating problems, fear, pain, and suffering. And we every day try to shine a light on what's going on. My attitude is the people should have the knowledge to the best of our abilities to convey so they can make the decisions for themselves. I want nothing more than to leave you alone, mind my own business, but hope that you, with correct information, will do good. Will do well. Jimmy Kimmel is the inverse, where he says, I'm going to lie to you so you do what I want, and that leads to death.
If I were a Disney executive, I would say, what am I paying you for? It's a comedy show. Where's the comedy here? This is not funny. You're not a talk show host. I mean, maybe there are different parameters if you're doing a hardcore free-for-all talk show. This is an evening comedy show that presumably adults watch right before they fall asleep at night. And I think that's been part of the problem. That's why these shows are losing their audience. They're hyper-political. They're not funny. They're funny in a mean way because they go after conservatives, and the leftists think that's so great to watch people bitch slap conservatives verbally, and that's the appeal of the show. It's one reason I don't watch that stuff anymore, and I used to.
Mary, to your point, like, I think that's what I was getting to at like the second half of my comment, right? If you're going to talk about a principled stand, if you're going to say, well, I have the principle of free speech and I think that you should be able to say whatever you want just so long as it's not specifically inciting, that's the principled stance. But the follow-up to that, which I was saying, was basically in line with what you're saying. Like, we're in a situation where the ground rules aren't the same for everybody, and the left has been doing this. And you look at the way the left has been reacting. They're saying, oh, all these people, how come you were so pro-free speech before, but now you're not? It's like the left wanted it this way.
Real quick, just there's an alert that went out about 40 minutes ago, right before we started the show. Unconfirmed reports of a gunman on UNC Wilmington campus. They're advising everyone to shelter in place. So if you haven't heard that, please look into it. Hope everybody's okay. And based on the video I've seen, I don't know how credible the reports is. There's a video of a man walking, carrying some kind of long gun, but I don't know about how this is North Carolina. Just because someone's seen with a weapon doesn't mean anything happened yet, but please look into it, and we'll take that seriously. And anyway, back to the point about free speech. Just want to make sure that people are safe. But
yeah, I mean, I just don't think that this even is, again, I don't think that free speech is the issue at hand. People will try and make it about free speech, but it really is about the inflammatory nature of the way that the left has been talking about the right, and the results of that have been murder now.
I just don't really care at all anymore. We believe in freedom of movement. We believe that individuals can move between states and cities, and then violence breaks out, and the police set up barriers saying nobody can cross, and we have no problem with that, right? If there's a riot or shootings taking place, and the police block the street with their car, and they say you can't go through here, we don't go, hey man, you're violating my right to. We go, extenuating circumstances. There are circumstances where we recognize rights will be infringed upon, I suppose is one way to describe it. But I don't know what else you do. And so my view is largely when they are killing people, when the death threats have reached such an extreme degree, when we are in a political environment where Charlie Kirk was assassinated and they celebrated it, there comes a point where you say, we have to be a little bit more serious about how we enforce the law than to just take the light approach. And the best example I can give is, whereas 5 years ago, if someone tweeted something like, oh, won't someone rid me of this Alad Eliyahu, we would all say, okay, like, we get the point. Today, if someone tweeted, oh, won't someone get rid of this Alad Eliyahu, I'd say that's a death threat, and they should be charged for it. And the reason why is Well, I'll elaborate as well. I believe the context of the person's character and social feeds matter for this. So there was a video I recorded earlier on the Tim Pool channel. Check out Tim Pool Show, at Tim Pool, and subscribe. Michael Knowles was talking about why we should prosecute Destiny and Hassan Piker. Literal criminal prosecution for the statements they've made. I don't know about Destiny. Destiny said if you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Trump should not have been president in second term, and he also said that conservatives should have to fear death or something to that effect, which can only be done when conservatives are being killed. However, Hassan sent a photo. This is my understanding from Michael Knowles' video, a photo of a makeshift weapon that was used to assassinate a political leader to a politician. Now, again, that's my understanding from the video. If that wasn't the case, whatever. I'm using it to illustrate a point. If someone has a history of saying things like, let the streets run red with their blood, kill them, like Hassan has, and then in the event, he sends a photo of a makeshift weapon that was used in an assassination, the intent is clear. However, if there is a mechanic who, Mythbusters, right? If one of the Mythbusters guys sent a picture of this weapon to somebody, we'd be like, what's he trying to say by that? I don't think the Mythbusters guy is threatening me with death. And he does, in context, talk about makeshift devices and things like that. So the context there is different. In the past, we have seen what I refer to as the Tweedledee Tweedledum death threat, where one person would say, you know, we really should be rid of these priests. And then someone would point at a lot and say, that's the priest. You know what they're doing. Each individual statement is not a death threat. Together it is, but you can't prosecute either of them. I say, now we should. The half statement counts. If you are standing next to somebody and you say, go kill Nazis, and the other person says they're the Nazi, you're both under arrest because you both issued a death threat. And I'm done playing these stupid games. So when people are like, the free speech of Jimmy Kimmel, no, I'm not playing this game anymore. First of all, nobody watches his show anyway. His ratings were collapsing. But to go on TV and lie, and this is evil. We are fighting people who are trying to get us killed. There are people who are posting lists online, and I've said this the past several nights, the past week, because it's happening. We're submitting this to the FBI, where they're saying, kill these people next. They're saying, or it's more vague than that. They're saying, hey, you should do this next. And it's a list of people's names like mine, Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, whatever. So when Jimmy Kimmel goes on his show, while Democrats are all celebrating this death, saying there should be more, justifying it, and then he goes, the guy was a MAGA guy anyway. Now you've got a problem of a critical mass of people who are going to start more murders, more riots. And I have zero sympathy for Jimmy Kimmel. I literally don't care. I literally don't. And on top of that, while I do agree with the idea of free speech, if you want to make jokes, I'm drawing the line at what Jimmy Kimmel did for mocking Trump. That's fine. He wants to make fun of Trump. He can be a dick. Lying about the intent of a mass shooter to inflame an audience and potentially lead this country to serious conflict and crisis is nuts. And I'll just say this. There is a fine line. What would happen, let me ask you guys, if Jimmy Kimmel went on his show and said, I think everybody should use violence to defy Donald Trump? What do you think would happen if he did that? He'd be taken off the air in 2 seconds. Yeah. He'd probably be criminal charged with sedition or something. He is doing 1% of that. It's admittedly very, very small. But I do not believe for a second that he did not know about the motive of the shooter. I don't believe that for a second. Which means any reasonable conclusion is that Jimmy Kimmel intentionally lied, fanning the flames. And for what reason? Hatred?
Blood libel. What he spread was a blood libel against Trump supporters, Republicans, conservatives, whatever you want to call that group of people. It's an intentional lie. There's no way in his heart of hearts he actually thought Tyler Robinson, yeah, he's a Trump supporter. Obviously, that's not the case. And I do think that it was a blood libel against Republicans or conservatives, ostensibly encouraging people not in his face-to-face audience, but the larger audience that watches him to take action against these dangerous people in our society.
Yep.
And
there was
Charlie Kirk is one of them.
There's no reason for him not to have come on the show and says, I really don't get this. He could have gone on the show and said, so it turns out that this shooter may have actually had left-leaning values. Now, of course, we all reject that, don't we? And they'd all clap and cheer. He could have done that. They'd have cheered for him, and he would have said, we're not going to be blamed for the actions of a madman, but we will denounce this because we're good. He could have done that. He didn't. He said it was one of their own who did it. And where the hammer comes down is when he said, according to this report from CNN, he was going to double down. So when they went to him and said, hey, guy, behind the scenes, it wasn't a MAGA guy, he said, I don't care. He said, I'm going to double down. Now, that is intent. He was trying to make things dangerous and worse in this country. There's a point at which you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. We say many people wrongly state you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You literally can. I think it's Brandenburg v. Ohio. You can. Nothing's stopping you from doing it. However, there's a circumstance where you can't yell fire. And what would that be? Let's just say there's 10 guys with rifles aimed at an innocent person and you yell fire. It's a ridiculous analogy, but my point is clear. When the speech you normally say in and of itself has no bearing. Imagine if you were standing in an empty field and a guy walks by and you yell fire. The guy would go, huh? Now imagine if you're standing with a bunch of men with guns and you yell fire. The context is very, very different. If Jimmy Kimmel's intent in context is to ignite throw a spark on a pile of tinder, then I think we say enough and we don't let him do it.
I think they were looking for an excuse to get rid of him anyway. As you pointed out, his ratings are lower than Stephen Colbert's even were before he got pulled. So in a way, it was inevitable.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.